Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and I'm making this video, one that I really didn't think I would have to make. I thought all the Brooklyn Nets drama was over for the time being. There was all of the things that happened at the beginning of the season with Steve Nash being fired, the Kyrie Irving situation, before the year Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving wanting trades, and it seemed like things had finally blown over. The Nets have been pretty good this season, at least when Kevin Durant has been healthy. They've looked like one of the best teams in a pretty loaded Eastern Conference, and maybe have the potential to make a deep playoff run. And then today, at lunch, as I'm there with a couple of friends who are in town, Kyrie Irving requests a trade literally out of nowhere. I think it was about a week ago, we got a report from Chris Haynes saying that Kyrie was looking for a long-term extension in Brooklyn, that this is the place he now wanted to be. And now all of a sudden, like I said, about a week later, he wants out, and he's saying you either trade me by the trade deadline or I'm going to walk in the offseason. So basically saying, you have two choices, and either way, I do not want to be here regardless of what happens. Completely out of the blue, because of course the Nets can't stay out of drama, especially when it comes to Kyrie Irving, who's been in his fair share of it basically over the course of his entire career, but really as of recently, since he got to Brooklyn, it feels like there's always something going on with this team. And really, I just can't wait for the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary about this Brooklyn Nets era, with KD and Kyrie coming here, the whole James Harden situation, trading for him wanting to leave, the trade request this past offseason, and now Kyrie also wanting to leave. And this completely complicates everything because, like I said, it seemed when they were healthy with Kevin Durant, they had a good shot of making a deep run in the playoffs. But now if you have to trade Kyrie Irving, sure, you still have KD, you've got Nick Claxton, you've got some solid role players, and I'm sure you'll get something back of substance in exchange for Kyrie Irving, but actually, maybe you won't, because then again, teams know now that he wants to be traded, and also, when you get Kyrie Irving, who's now on a one-year deal, he's expiring this offseason, so if you can sign him to an extension, you'll probably be willing to give up more, but there's always the flight risk with Kyrie, and even if he signs a long-term contract, Kyrie's volatile. Who knows if he's going to request a trade in like a couple of weeks, or if he's going to say, I'm just going to retire, out of the blue. I wouldn't put it past Kyrie Irving. So who knows what his trade value is, and are the Brooklyn Nets even going to move him, or are they just going to say, okay, we'll let you go in this offseason, maybe through a sign and trade, and just try and win a championship this season? So now, of course, the question on everybody's mind is, where is Kyrie going to get traded if he does get dealt? And I don't think it is a guarantee that he gets moved. Sure, you would expect the Nets to say, okay, we don't want to lose him for nothing. We'll go ahead and deal him at the deadline and just kind of wash our hands of this whole situation. But there's less than a week till the deadline. It's really, there isn't a worse time for Kyrie to make this request other than like the day of the deadline, I guess. But right now, the Nets don't have a lot of time. They've got to make this decision quick. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they say, okay, we'll just try and do a sign and trade in the offseason. That might be our best bet. But I do expect a fair number of teams to try and acquire him, because at the beginning of the season, there really wasn't that much interest, apparently, with the opposing teams. They weren't super interested because of the contract situation. But if a team, once again, can get him to commit long-term, and whatever that means with Kyrie Irving, if you think that he could potentially stay, then I would see teams being more interested, especially because he's played really, really well this season. I mean, he's an all-star starter, and I think there are a fair number of teams that are looking at their squads right now, especially in that Western Conference, where everybody's super close, and I'm sure a lot of teams look at Kyrie and say, hey, he could be the piece to put us over the top. Think about like a Dallas Mavericks, who've been looking for a guy to put next to Luka Doncic for a while. Maybe they go ahead and try and put together a Kyrie Irving package. A team like the Los Angeles Clippers that have been dying for a point guard, they could try and put something together. The Timberwolves, who have been looking apparently to get rid of D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards has played pretty well. Maybe Kyrie Irving they see as a potential piece next to Anthony Edwards to form this great backcourt that can help them turn things around when Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert get fully healthy. Of course, the Lakers are going to be in the midst of things. I'm 100% sure they probably already called up Sean Marks and said, okay, Russell Westbrook, one or both of those picks, maybe some protections. What do you want to do? I'm sure they've already made that call. I'm sure they've been making that call all season, but especially today, I guarantee you Rob Pelinka was like the first one on the phone to try and get Kyrie over to join LeBron and Anthony Davis, because literally today reports came out that the Lakers are expected to be one of the more active teams at the deadline, whether it's just in terms of searching for deals or actually making them happen. I think there are also some teams with some aging point guards that I wouldn't be surprised if they're interested in a Kyrie trade. For example, the Miami Heat, I would not be surprised at all if they've already called up Brooklyn and said, hey, we could do a Kyle Lowry and Kyrie Irving swap, maybe throw in some draft capital or a player. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Because the Heat, I'm sure, look at themselves as being like a piece or two away, and they've done a really good job of playing through some injuries, so maybe bringing in a dynamic scoring point guard like Kyrie Irving could make a big difference on that team. And also the Phoenix Suns, I feel like, are a sleeper team to potentially go out and trade for Kyrie Irving, because apparently they've been looking towards the future past Chris Paul, who seems to be regressing, and if they think that, hey, Kyrie could be our point guard of the future next to Devin Booker, maybe they say, hey, Brooklyn, why why don't we swap Chris Paul? You can get still a high-level point guard, although he is a bit aging, put him next to Kevin Durant, and they can still try and be competitive while we get a bit younger with Kyrie Irving. I'm sure they would throw in some draft capital as well. Who knows? Maybe that could be a potential move. And I feel like that's kind of a sleeper that a lot of people I haven't seen talk about. So who knows? There are a lot of potential suitors, but once again, with Kyrie, the volatility and everything that comes with him, outside of, him just being a really good basketball player, that does complicate things a lot. And the final matter in this whole thing is what happens to Kevin Durant with this Kyrie Irving trade? He apparently wanted to be traded before the season, but then they've been playing great basketball, and it seemed like things might work out in Brooklyn. But if Kyrie's gone now, the Nets are going to have no cap space to bring anybody in because Ben Simmons is making a ton of money. They've, of course, got a max contract locked up in Kevin Durant himself. And if they trade Kyrie Irving, they're probably going to get similar salary back, unless it is an expiring like a Russell Westbrook. But even in that case, they're not going to have money to bring in a third star. They dealt all their draft picks to Houston for James Harden, so they can't upgrade the roster in really any significant way through those. What happens with Brooklyn? Do they just fall apart? Does Kevin Durant request another trade? And if he does, where does he go? This whole thing could have a massive domino effect on the league, not just this season at the deadline, which has all of a sudden become a lot more interesting because it has felt like, there are some names on the market that we could potentially see moved, but it feels like there isn't anything too substantial that's going to go down outside of maybe like an OG Anunoby trade. But now it feels like there's a big name that could have massive rippling consequences across the league. Kyrie could turn some borderline contending team into a true contender, a team that wants to be a contender into one of those borderline teams. And regardless of where he goes, we then have to look at Kevin Durant as somebody that's got to get moved probably pretty soon. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, maybe KD just wants to hang out there and play through this whole thing. But if they lose Kyrie Irving, I don't see them being truly anywhere near the level of contention that they were prior to an eventual deal. To quickly wrap things up, if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, I'm so sorry that this is all happening. It really has felt like ever since that Kyrie and KD and then eventually James Harden got to town, the Nets have been cursed in one way or another, whether it's bad injury luck. The one year they had the big three together and Harden got hurt and Kyrie got hurt and they went to game 7 against the Bucks and Kevin Durant's toe was just barely on the line. All of that stuff happening, the first season where KD missed because of the Achilles injury and then Kyrie missed a lot of the year, and then last season, all of the stuff with James Harden eventually requesting a trade, Kyrie Irving and the whole vaccine thing. It just feels like ever since this whole era started, it's been cursed from the get-go. So if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, I'm so sorry that things continue to happen. Maybe there is still a light at the end of the tunnel because who knows? Maybe this whole thing blows over like the other trade requests did. They don't trade him at the deadline, and all of a sudden they're able to work out an extension, because I'm guessing the reason Kyrie isn't on board with an extension now is I'm sure Brooklyn tried to put some caveats in it. They were either like, hey, we only want to do a couple of years, as opposed to maybe like a 4-year deal like maybe Kyrie wanted. But regardless, maybe there is still a chance that this whole thing blows over. I don't really know what the odds of that are. But yeah, if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, I apologize because I'm sure this hasn't been fun. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Kyrie Irving trade situation. Let me know in the comment section below where you think he ends up if he does get moved, and also, of course, does he actually get traded? And what are some of your favorite fits for him just in terms of trying to win a championship? Where do you think that Kyrie Irving would fit best with that current squad? What should a team give up or be willing to give up for a player like Kyrie Irving with all of the things associated with him? Another team that I do want to throw out there real quick that I just thought of are the New Orleans Pelicans. They have a ton of young talent. Maybe they could say, hey, we'll bring in Kyrie Irving, put him at the point guard, you put CJ at the 2, then you've got Ingram, Zion, and Valanciunas. That's a crazy squad. Of course, defensively, there are some issues here and there, but it is another team to keep an eye on because I do think there are a lot of teams that could potentially put their names in the hat for this whole sweepstakes. But anyways, I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.